All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions or changes?
No, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open forum. If anybody would like to come up and speak, we're here for you. All right.
Mike Good, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and council members, thank you for having us here. I'm Jean Paschke, and I'm with the Melrose Area Historical Society and the Melrose Area Arts Council, and we have a suggestion that when all this construction out here is done and the bridge is completed, that the bridge be named for Edwin Clark, the father of Melrose. Who was he? You have a packet, and the large sheet gives you a brief rundown of his accomplishments, because he was an incredible man, not only to the history of Melrose, but to the state of Minnesota. The smaller sheet is the ramifications, legal doings in order to go to the county and name a bridge. And the booklet tells a full story of Edwin Clark's life. So Edwin Clark came from New Hampshire in 1957, and he published the first daily newspaper in Minneapolis. And then he published some other papers as well. And one of them, through a series of merger and acquisitions, is now the Star Tribune. So then off to Washington, D.C., and he was a clerk in the House of Representatives. And 2 days before he was inaugurated, President Lincoln signed a petition to send him to... More mic? Get closer. Can you hear?
Yeah.
I did test the mic. To send him to the Leech Lake Indian Agency, the Chippewa agency there, and be in charge of that. And he planned and designed all the buildings and made a long, dangerous winter journey to deliver the payments to the natives, and basically tried to get the natives to settle down and be farmers, which was, in retrospect, probably not a good idea, but that's what he did. And then he wouldn't kick $60 into President Andrew Johnson's campaign fund, and Johnson fired him. So he came to Melrose for reasons that aren't clear, but he was determined to build a mill. He had seen the mills of New England. He had seen the great big grain mills of Minneapolis. I think he wanted his own mill. And so he brought with him his cousin William, and the two of them rolled up their sleeves and did one of everything. When they came, Melrose was a little collection of straggling log cabins and a stagecoach stop. And when they had finished, they had a bridge, a mill, a dam, a bank, business establishments, homes, churches, and the railroad, which was a big deal. All pretty much Clark's doing. And so after he left, he went back to Minneapolis and there founded 2 historical societies and 2 small museums. And so we think this man was very worthy to be named something in Melrose, and tonight we were proposing that the bridge be named. So, questions, comments from other members here? No?
And I am open to questions on this. If we
You have a packet, so look that over an hour later.
Yep. Does the council have any questions?
My husband is flapping at me. You go right ahead.
So she told some of the things that Clark did and what made him supposedly famous. But this area, the mill was right by the dam. The mill was right by the bridge. Clark's buildings, he built the block that just burned recently, okay? About half of that block. He built all of those big brick buildings. That was called the brick block. And that was right by the bridge, right by the mill, right by this area. And Earl's Bar, that was the mill, that was the operating office, Therefore, everything was right down here in this location. Yeah. So we're just suggesting that he be commemorated some way. And what better way than to name a bridge after him, do something in the area. Okay, so that is our request.
Yeah.
No.
Of course, it's a county bridge, so,
Right.
I mean, I would definitely entertain it. I think it's a good idea. He did do a lot for our community. But I know probably the first step is, we gotta talk to the county. You have to talk to the county. Yeah.
Yeah, the county had some suggestions for us. We contacted them first, and they have some suggestions for us.
Yeah.
So that's one of the sheets that you have, the suggestions.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and if there's any, we can't vote on it, of course, because it's not an agenda, but, even as a consensus, I mean, how do you, council, feel about something like that? Is that okay if they go and approach the county, or?
Yeah, I guess I'd never considered naming the bridge, but it certainly doesn't hurt to name it.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than Herman or Jesse or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless you have other questions.
No, yeah, I mean, you have my full support to go to the county and visit with them, and sounds like all of us feel, yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, we'll wait for your final approval, and then we'll go to the county.
Well, I think you would go to the county now, because they're the ones who own the bridge. They're the ones that can officially name it. I mean, we can go along with it too, but I think that's where, it has to probably get on their agenda, and most likely Jody's gonna call us and talk to us and say, how do you feel about it? And if we say yes, yeah, then I would say that would be the best action, right, Colleen? So, yeah,
May 10th. They could appear before the county on May 10th.
yeah.
I thank you very much.
With our blessings, I would go forward with it if I were you. Thank you. So, yeah. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
So if there's no one else that wants to talk, we're on the consent agenda, approval of the minutes, approval of the bills, purchase orders, approval of investments, fire department account bad debt, ambulance department account bad debt. Then there's a few resolutions. Resolution number 2022-22, donation of $500 from the Lions Club for their final commitment of the 2018 water tower lights in amount of $2,000. Resolution number 2022-23, $500 donation from the Roving Hillbilly Snowmobile Clubs towards the Melrose Fire Department. Resolution number 2022-26, $2,000 from the Melrose Lions to the Melrose Area Chamber of Commerce towards Riverfest celebration. Resolution number 2022-27, donation of $2,000 from the VFW Post to the Melrose Area Chamber of Commerce for Riverfest. Resolution number 2022-28, donation of $1,000 from the American Legion Post 101 for the Riverfest celebration. There's a couple gambling resolutions. There is an EMT hire, community festival license for the Chamber of Commerce, and RDB project invoice from Stearns County. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. And just thank you for all the donations of all the groups supporting our community. We are on to reports and Spectrum Incorporated, if you guys would like to come up and talk.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Mark with Inspectron. That's Mike Wallen with Inspectron. He's also a building official. He runs our St. Joe office and the area around there. We have a proposal, contract proposal for you, and a fee schedule because we bought out in Minnesota inspections. So we took over their company, and in doing so, now we are responsible and we're the delegated building officials for Melrose. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look this over. I'm sure there's questions and there's things you want to talk about, so I'd rather have you have the floor and I'll just respond.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I want to add a couple items. So we actually you guys talked about this last month. What we realized is after we kind of were going back and forth and doing the comparisons, we adopted our 2022 fee schedule. So they are honoring what our fee schedule is. However, we do not have in our fee schedule a plan check fee. And that's where kind of the issue comes in. So for years and years and years, we just had a plan check fee that was like $100, but it was not ever adopted into our fee schedule. And $100, and Mark and Mike can talk about this, for new construction that comes in, that doesn't, come close to covering what you would do. So the issue is really with the new construction permits for residential. On everything else, I think there really isn't, I think it's all contained within the building permit. And these guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But the other thing that Inspectron does is they only take 75% of the building permit fee, whereas our previous inspector took 85%. So there's a 10% savings in terms of the actual what Inspectron takes. However, the plan check fee itself would be significantly higher than what we have paid. They are wanting all the communities up and down the corridor to be very consistent. I know they've met with Albany. I've talked to Tom, Bill out of Augusta, thank you. And so I will let Mark talk about what they're proposing for a plan check fee. But regardless of what we do, it is something that should be included in our fee schedule. So we will have to do a modification.
Well, first I should probably tell you a little bit about us. We've been around for 31 years. Ron Wasman is the one who started the company 31 years ago when he was building official for the city of Rosemont. At this present time, we have 31 jurisdictions. They're all this size, smaller, maybe some a little larger. This is what we specialize in, is taking care of municipalities like this, because we're good at it. We all come from small areas. We all came from the trades. We know what it's like to be out there, so we don't come stomping in with a book and saying this is why it's got to be, unless it's going to be detrimental to Melrose or us. Okay, because there's a lot of gray areas. The state will even tell you there's a lot of gray areas in all those books. And it's our job to interpret them and make sure that we can get a job done efficiently, safely, and everybody down the line is going to be okay. So that's just a little bit about us. You can look us up online too. We have shows our resume on there if you want to put it that way, who we have in our staff. There is 12 of us on staff right now. 8 of us are building officials, 9. I don't remember if he passed his test yet. So it's either 8 or 9 because I haven't talked to him. So we have a lot of coverage. We have 3 office staff. We have a new computer system software called Citizen Serve where everything can be done online. We're still working the bugs out, but it's coming. So any one of the residents can go onto the portal, fill out all their information, put all their documents in. We have it, you get it. We can all look at it at the same time, decide what we have to do with it, do our part, put it all back in there and get that permit out quick. So with that being said, what our usual standard is? Well, the standard for commercial across the board, no matter where you go, is 65% of your permit fee is your plan review fee. And commercial people understand that. It's that way no matter where you go. The plan review fee for residential only goes for residential houses, additions, decks, things like that, based on valuation. And that is also in our contract, because we do that everywhere, 65% of the building permit fee. What we're proposing to do in the corridor is to bring it down to 50% and keep everybody on the same level, all the way from Osakis all the way down to St. Augusta, everyone we have. So that way everybody's playing on the same sheet of paper. We all have the same stuff going on. We know what to do. Every municipality as well as us. Okay, that's about all I got.
Yeah. I know we had 2 questions from a council member who wasn't here. Do you have that, Colleen?
Yep, I do. So, and I shared that with both Mark and with Mike.
Yeah, I just read it, and you don't have to look that up. The question was, can you use an old pole barn plan with a few tweaks from a lumber yard and reuse it now? The unfortunate answer is no, because the state has deemed that a pole barn is not a stick frame building or a balloon frame building. It is another kind of construction. Therefore, it falls under commercial buildings, which means as a commercial building, it's required to be engineered. We didn't come up with that, the state did. So if I could turn this off, I'd like to. But they're going to hear it now. Okay, so the dumb part about that is you can put your $500,000 combine in an ag building. It doesn't have to be engineered. You put your $30,000 boat in it, they're going to pay for your combine when the building comes down, but not for your boat. That's why the engineering is there. That's all insurance companies. So when you do an accessory building for somebody to park their boat and their motorcycle, it has to be engineered for the insurance company to pay for it if something goes wrong. But you can put a tarp over your combine and they're going to pay for it. And that's the actual truth, bottom line.
Okay.
Does that minimum size, I would ask?
So I know that's an unfortunate sticking point, but there's nothing we can do about that one.
More or less going out the same standards as the previous company. That's kind of a statewide. I mean, as far as the inspections and what's in code and what's not.
Right,
in code.
right, exactly.
What you're trying to do is make uniformity between the different communities you're serving.
Yes,
In this area.
yes.
And then the second question was, with the new fee language, how does that look different to the end consumer? Is it more fees, how much, et cetera? And as we said, the fee schedule for us is the same. So what is getting charged for actual building permits themselves aren't changing from what we adopted in '22. And in fact, these guys are taking 10% less than what the previous building official did. Where the sticking point or where the difference is we did not have, it was just assumed, it's like a lot of stuff because you've had it's no different than when Waste Management took over for, Becker's or whatever. If you assume a contract, you don't know, it's just, you don't look at those, sometimes those numbers, they've just never changed them for years. And so we had just a flat plan check fee in there. And that doesn't work if you're building, or if you're doing inspections on a new home construction. So the only place that we'd see an impact is on that side of it. You would not see it really in the commercial side at all.
Is there more engineering companies that, these businesses that have to get stuff built, don't have to wait 2.5, 3 months to get in?
I wish it was that way. And that's just because there's a shortage of engineers and they're backed up. And, I want to tell you that there's an easy way out of that, but I can't. I don't like it. I mean, my dad's got barns that are older than I am, and I walk through them and they're still there. But it's what we have to do.
How often are you in town for inspections? Like if places need inspections, how does that work? I'm just asking.
How often are we here?
Yeah. Or,
Well, get my number, call me, I'll be here tomorrow.
okay.
As needed. When somebody needs.
As
an
need be, yes.
inspection.
As needed, yeah. Mike's down the road, Michael's up the road, and if I need to have to come in from Wisconsin, I will. 'cause that's where my house is. I left this morning at 5 o'clock to run around up here all day. I'll get home at 10. Want me to do it tomorrow? I will.
Great. It's good to hear.
My wife won't like that one if I do it 2 days in a row, but I'll let you guys talk to her.
I'm never home either, so.
Okay, well, then we're good.
Awesome, okay.
And Mike is right, Mike Wallen is right next door, so.
Yeah.
Good.
They've
And he'll
already
be
had
up
to
here
meet with
anytime
a
you call him,
couple folks that had questions and concerns, and they actually met with them one-on-one. And in one instance where we were talking about the structural stuff being out as far as it was, they worked with that
Oh,
particular.
Al?
Yeah.
Yeah, Al
business.
came up and met me because I was up in Alexandria. And I know what the plan looks like. I've seen them before. But we did the whole thing, and I said, okay, Al, let's do this. But before you get to move in there, we have to have that engineered plan, and we can tweak it as we go. So get started on it, because otherwise he was 8 weeks out with his engineering and 8 weeks out with a lumber package. Well, I'm not going to make somebody wait 16 weeks, right? You know, I mean, there's going to be a building going up. They're digging a hole starting tomorrow in where was I first? In Spicer. In Spicer, because we just got the plan last week, but they got to get going. So they're digging it. I'm looking at it. We'll have it out there next week, and away they go. It's only 16 units. Not too bad.
So you will work with the people well, right?
Yes.
Good.
The whole point of this is to make sure we have a safe building, but get the damn thing done. You know, we're not getting any progress if we're all standing around talking about it,
Right.
you know?
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing why we just said, well, it's, you guys come in here and let's talk, because the only reason why this even got brought up is because we all of a sudden had people coming in saying, hey, what's with the engineered drawing thing all of a sudden? Well, it never got brought up before. And
Yeah.
we've had a little bit of past with some businesses having a hard time getting things done, and they hit roadblocks and nobody helps them out trying to figure out a solution to fix the
Right.
roadblock so they can
Right.
keep going. They want to build hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff in Melrose, but they hit one roadblock and nobody really helps them.
Helps them
Okay,
get
how can we
through it.
how can we get over the hurdle?
One thing we
Where-
can't do is we can't actually solicit anyone, like an engineer or an architect. But if you guys had a list, you could supply it, but I can't.
Right.
You know, and those are also helpful if you just happen to know a name of somebody and then put it on a list and then they can call and ask. You know, because we can't do that legally.
Okay.
So how do you guys stay up in touch with like the lumberyard and stuff? Because like, I mean, for instance, there was one that said, well, I went to the lumberyard, and they're like, what are you talking, why do you need it engineered? Like, you know, so I mean, are we staying up to date with even our local lumberyard, with, you know, some of the other ones around here saying, hey, if you guys are starting to draw a design for, you know, a business in town,
Well, the
might be
commercial
a-
and the pole barn has to be engineered. A house can be drawn by any architect and stuff like that.
Right.
That's not a big deal. So, but the lumber yards cannot do an engineered plan, unfortunately. We've got the ones down over there, they're all settled in with it. Even Menards knows that they have to have it engineered and not to the agricultural standard, which they wanted to do. So they can't do that. It has to be to the IBC, which isn't that much different. It's just they can't sell you a cookie because they don't make them thick enough. So now they're sitting on a warehouse full of cookies.
okay.
Okay.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, as far as just our procedure, there's some subtle nuances, probably procedural efficiency with your firm, but other than that, fees and inspections and that sort of stuff, we're not going to see a lot of dollar difference at all.
No, it's, when we were looking at it, it's broken down differently. Like we were talking about, it's the only thing is the plan check fee is the only thing that's going to bump people. The rest of you look at those documents, you'll see that, well, ours isn't out there, good thing, because they're printed out different. So what we'll do is we'll take that one and put it in the software, and when it's in the software, then everything comes out that way. Until then, Doris, she'll knows what to do, so she'll just
Yeah.
keep doing that. And that'll probably go till the end of the year for sure, if not longer. Might go indefinitely, we don't know.
So very little change as far as this goes, with the exception, you guys got exceptional service, and everybody's gonna be happy.
That's gonna be it.
There we
There's a
go.
plan check.
You
fee.
bet.
We have to understand that. There is a plan check
bet.
fee increase. Yeah.
Do you mind, can I talk to that for just?
Sure.
Sure.
I knew he couldn't sit down.
We've been just itching, I've been watching them.
He's fidgeting. I can sit down out here.
Yeah, Mayor, council members, my name is Mike Wallen. I spent 10 years sitting where you're sitting in Big Lake. I was on the council for 10 years and I was mayor for the last 2. So I understand and appreciate what you're going through. 2 of the questions. Number 1, Mark's in a Rosemount office. I call him my boss. He hates that, but I'm going to call him my boss anyways. I house in St. Joseph. I have St. Joseph, St. Augusta, Rockville, Richmond, Kimball, and I have Melrose on the commercial side of it. I've been a contractor for almost 30 years. I've been doing this now for 5. I came to the dark side 5 years ago. I just want to address 2 things. Number 1, we get to lumberyards that go, I had no idea. Okay, they can play that, but we're working on every time that happens to make sure they do understand this is a new state statute. We don't have to like it. Like Mark said, we don't have to like it, but we have to work under state statute. I'm licensed, and my license can be taken away, and we don't want to do that. Secondly, thanks a lot to talk about the exemplary service. We answer our phones. We call people back. We turn permits around quickly. I don't think you had that service in the past, quite to the extent that you're going to see it now. It's not just Michael, and it was Mark before. It was not just Michael. It's Michael and it's Mike. And then we do have another 7 full BOs, because there's an inspector, there's a building official limited, and then there's a BO, which is the building official. And I'm one of those that's certified as a building official. So, yeah, we pride ourselves on that. I answer my phone, I answer questions. Colleen called me and asked me, and I answered the question. We do that, and I think you guys are going to see an improvement. I think you're going to see people that are now all of a sudden going to come back and go, yeah, they really do. And, and we try to bundle our inspections, and I'm going to talk to this because I'm up here. We try to bundle our inspections that make it the most efficient, but if we have to make a onesie-twosie thing, we will do that. Michael will come down and take care of it on data that's not normally in his typical normal rotation. If Michael can't, I'm 28 minutes away. So, I want you guys to understand that yeah, we're not a fly-by-night operation, and we are.
So the business cards say, if you build it, we will come.
That's pretty much what it is. But I will tell you that everybody's going to push it. They're going to say, number 1, hey, you guys charge way too much, which I get everywhere. Developers, builders, they always say that about everything. We get that. The permits are the permits. I mean, we're all in business, stay in business. So, I mean, we're thrilled to death. I mean, honestly, we're thrilled to death to be part of this. And Colleen and Doris have been great to work with. And I think Doris will tell you too, we turn things around immediately and get them back. We don't want people waiting. In this environment, we don't want people waiting, so thanks, everybody.
No, we're glad that you came today. Appreciate you answering our questions. That means a lot, because it's something we haven't had to go through many times in our community, so it's good to hear from you guys.
Well, it's great to be able to do that so you guys understand what goes on.
Perfect.
Nerd.
Well, good.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're excused.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where's the closest bar?
See you
Across
in
the
about
road.
20 minutes.
Pick me.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Yes.
Chief.
Good evening. Monthly statistics for March 2022. In our traffic area, we had 21 citations, 50 verbal warnings, 3 written warnings. For 2022, we had 268 calls and requests for service, 376, last year. We ended on ICR 786. Last year was 1,009, so we're about 223 calls down for the year already. 27 agency assists. We have been quieter in the last several months. Actually, we've been quieter since basically last fall, which is quite all right most days, but we have been making some more visits to the school recently. They've had a few things popping up over there, and a lot of it's just simple things that we can handle, and it's more or less officer presence things, not anything too serious. So it's good that we're still working with that partnership, getting information passed back and forth and working with each other. Yesterday we hosted, or helped with actually, the National Honor Society. They did a distracted/drunk driving presentation. The students put that all together. We participated in providing a little pedal cart and an obstacle course that the kids went through it on a quick trial run. Then we either had them texting or using their phones as they're going through the course, or is putting on goggles that simulate being under the influence of alcohol. So it was good to see, to have maybe a more entertaining version of what we were trying to teach through the slides and whatever else. We got quite a few students through that, so it was good to see. But the impairment side of things didn't favor their driving any better than the distracted side of things. So it does show the students that when you are distracted, when you are impaired using just even a simple pedal cart, that you're going to cause some issues, going to have some problems. So hopefully that message rings through with prom coming up, graduation, and life in general for them. So it's good work to work with them again. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm on a roll tonight. Enforcement in town of ordinances. Are you working on that? Because
May 1st.
Yeah, I think we need to do it a little more often, because I'm just seeing such bad places now. And I think it's something we should review. Places that are falling apart, siding not put on the house for 3 years.
So we won't be doing those. That was the direction of the council previously, and we haven't done those for several years.
When did we do that, may I ask? Because I don't remember doing that.
It was what Scott and I have gone through, which follows state statute, that we put into ordinance, is related to anything on the housing code side, shingles, siding, paint, all those sorts of things that are contractor-related things. We've abandoned doing any of those sorts of things because we don't have, or didn't have at that time anyway, council support to move forward with abatement on those, which then doesn't give us the ability to go to court. And at the time, the conversation is the city doesn't want to become contractors to line up after, say it all went through and the court says, yep, City of Melrose, you can go ahead and take care of those shingles, those siding, and all that sort of stuff. It falls on the city then to line up the contractors, the materials, all those sorts of things. And we can assess those dollars back to them through their taxes or send them a bill hoping they pay it. But that wasn't that council's decision at the time to follow through with that. So the amount of effort that was being put in by myself or Scott or anybody else, we abandoned that part of things. We still do the yearly inspection for the other nuisance things, which we've had very good luck. Those numbers have been coming down every year. And we've had some court processes that have been in our favor as well, but we've abandoned the side related to the housing related issues because we didn't have anything that gave us any teeth to say, hey, we've been talking to you for literally 15 years about your siding or your shingles. Here's another letter, here's another hours of our time. Please try again. Okay. So we abandoned that whole area of the ordinance. At least on my part. I don't know if
That's fine.
when we had a community developer, if they were doing more work on that or not.
Yeah. No, just garbage, tires,
Yep.
8 cars in the front yard.
Yeah, so we'll do the full sweep, the springtime sweep, but we do them throughout the year as well. So we usually get the broad amount of letters sent out. We'll start in May because that should be, it's always the hope by May. We got ample time for people to get a head start on it, as well as the weather turns for us, so that we can get people out there working on things. It gives us a good time frame too to get them in front of you guys for abatement and those sorts of things if necessary, and still be cleaned up before fall in case we do need to get into that court route. So that's been generally the time frame we've been working on. But we do pluck them out throughout the year. We have one property that's truly just recycling. You send them a notice on this, that, or another thing, they clean it up in time frame, but then they replaced what they had. Here's another letter, here's another letter. So.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Tessa?
Good evening. There were a few things I just wanted to bring to the council's attention, things that may potentially impact Melrose. One of the big things is they're looking at local government aid and revisions to that. And as you recall, that's a pretty big portion of our general fund revenue budget. So the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, along with the League of Minnesota Cities, Metro Cities, and Association of Small Cities have been looking at this and working to determine what changes might be reasonable. They typically look at the formula for LGA about every 10 years. The last time was 2013, so with the census in 2020, they thought it'd be a really good time to do it now knowing the populations of the areas. So one of the main things that they are speaking of is that LGA has not really kept pace with cities' expenditures, with inflation, and in turn, the portion of the state's general fund that's allocated to this has actually been going down. So they're looking at, they're proposing two things, a $90 million increase in the amount that the state allocates to local government aid, as well as a revision to the formula. So in relation, for medium-sized cities, which are 2,500 to just under 10,000 population, so Melrose, one thing that they are looking to change in that formula is looking at the percentage of commercial and industrial utility property market value. So for Melrose, that could be pretty significant when you look at our commercial and industrial base, which is pretty large. Under the current law for 2023, our LGA is estimated to increase about 15,000, 2%. So with the House Tax Committee, currently they have an omnibus bill that has an additional 34 million in there. So with that, plus the proposed formula change, just for reference, that would be an increase of our local government aid of approximately 66,000. So instead of a 2% increase, we're looking at approximately 7%. Now with the proposed tax bill having that $90 million increase in funding and the new formula, our estimated increase could be 173,000, so about 18%. So it could have, you know, if this went through, a pretty big impact for us. So when they look at local government aid, they look at the amount that a city needs, as well as what they can afford by going through their levy, and that gap is their unmet needs. So the unmet needs is the maximum amount. If the state fully funded this program, which they don't, but if they did, that's the maximum amount we could get. Currently, that's about 1.3 million. And if that formula were to go through, the maximum amount would increase to just under 2.3 million. So there is a pretty big impact. Now again, that's assuming the state fully funds it, but just to kind of show the impact on that. So where this is at is currently the House has this in their proposed House tax bill. And right now the Senate has a tax bill and nothing with this is in there. They are looking at a second tax bill and those could be consolidated. So then that goes to committees to review before that goes to the conference committee. At that point is when we really need to kind of pay attention to where they're going. The legislative session adjourns on May 23rd. It is not a budget year, so they wouldn't have to take action. But the Coalition of Greater Minnesota and these entities have asked us to watch for this. So if they come to you and ask for a letter drafted in support of this bill or anything like that, that just to be aware that that may come. So I just kind of wanted to give an overview of what's being discussed, the potential impacts it could have, and this may be coming in May or June again, just if they ask for support. A second area of funding that came in was related to our ambulance department. So I received notice from the Department of Health that we can opt in to receive supplemental ambulance payments. So this is available to governments that own their ambulance services. So what this supplemental payment would be the difference between what our Medicaid payments are and when you look at the average amount that the top 3 commercial payers would pay. So we could ask for or receive a supplemental payment to fill that gap, because for Medicare, Medicaid, they pay a max amount, and a good number of our rides are covered under those services. So it doesn't matter what our fee schedule is. They pay what they pay. So now they'll look at the health partners, the preferred, all of the major insurance payers, and look at what those differences are. So I have sent in the paperwork that Melrose is interested in doing this. I would have to work with our ambulance billers to provide the information if we get the back from the state. So I don't know what the potential dollar amount could be if we're approved for it, but we're looking into it, because if it's just sending in the data, if we can get some extra funding for that, it could be worthwhile. The two other areas I just wanted to make note of, in February, we were contacted from the Department of Revenue. We participate in the revenue recapture program, so with our uncollectible ambulance payments, utility bills, fire services, we can submit those to the state, and those can be garnished from any income tax returns, property tax returns, some of that, and remitted back to us. So they let us know that we had been randomly selected for an audit of our program, so we've been working with the state. I haven't received the final reports back yet. There will be likely some changes, mostly in the notification letters, what we need to identify, what their steps can be, but we're working on that. And then the last item, just to kind of touch base on, we are in the process, we're getting close to the end. Starting last year, we worked on implementing Laserfish, a document management system. So this has been a 5-phase project. We're currently on the last phase, so we're getting there. And this will help move us to a more paperless-based system. It's really gonna help us with searching capabilities. For example, we have a contract module that will track all of our contracts and give out notifications when they're coming up for renewal. We have an address files module, and this allows us to store all documents associated with a parcel by the address. So if we look up a property, we can see any building permits issued for that, any variances, easements, that kind of thing. So that will make it really helpful to see the full history of those. Accounts payable, all of that is going paperless now. So this will really help in our searching, in being able to share information. It'll be a work in progress getting everything converted to that, but the structure of it is almost finished. So that is all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
I had hoped to have more to say tonight, but the trial on our matter with Rose Park was moved again. It was scheduled for today and tomorrow. On Monday, I received notice that Judge Hennessy, who's presiding on the matter, had a death in her family, and that she was, would be at the funeral and doing different things with this funeral arrangements, and that she would not be available for a trial these next couple of days. I received confirmation then late yesterday afternoon, that yes, they have now officially moved and rescheduled the trial, so we're at the end of June. June 28th and 29th. So I notified the witnesses that we were going to call on, that they could make other plans other than to be in St. Cloud the next couple of days, and that to block out some time at the end of June, and we'll take it from there. And that's something that, well, just unpredictable. I mean, we were busy preparing for the trial this week, right up until Monday morning. So we're in about the same place we were last month when I talked, and we'll probably be in about the same place next month when we meet again. We'll get there eventually. So I don't know if you have any questions. Like I say, not much you can do when the judge says, sorry, I can't make it. We'll have to find another time. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott. Dave.
All right, good evening. Quick update for the month here. Continue with the roller coaster ups and downs in our housing search for finding housing land. hopefully we're on an upswing right now. There's some good potential out there. Working with Maida and Tracy and Colleen mostly here on this thing to make it work. Get some numbers, see if we can get some lots building in town. We certainly know the demand is out there. Otherwise, coming up the next month here, we'll continue on the housing stuff, and then we're going to meet as a staff and try to work on infrastructure projects for the next couple of years, get that plan in place here, as get those funding dollars in place and get our schedule in place. So that's the plan as far as I'm concerned in the next month. Questions for me? Pretty brief.
Thank you. All right, Colleen.
In your packet, you had an RDB update, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but the one thing that everyone's looking at, obviously the cranes are moving stuff overhead, right? And so next week, a really, really, really big crane's coming in to move those piers. So we have a feeling we're going to have a few, people gawking or looking or checking it out. So we're going to end up putting some tape up, and we're going to protect an area. So, if people are there kind of curious to see what's going on, it's all kind of taped off. So work with the contractor on that, and obviously the police chief, just to make sure if people are watching that or wanting to take pictures, at least they're behind where they are going to be safe. Related to the RDB though, and this is something I did want to kind of get the feel from the council, and I know we've talked about this off and on, but Sauk River Park itself is really not in a place where anybody should be right now. It is, first of all, no cars should be in there. And we had an issue a few weeks ago with cars being in there, which they shouldn't be. But there is a lot of equipment. There's a big water line. There's a multitude of things that are happening there. And so Gary and his crew did put up some additional barriers so people wouldn't go in there. So the question that I've been getting is, well, okay, Sauk River Park is closed, but what about this or what about that? Obviously if people want to go on the trail, they're going to go on the trail. If people are going to use the playground that's on the far side, they're going to use the playground. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I don't believe, and we talked about this before, the pavilion itself can't be used, nor can that one ball field really, because of the amount of equipment that's going to be there, and that's going to continue pretty much all summer. Because if we are able to continue doing all the work with the campgrounds, it really is something that has to be shut down. For all intents and purposes, probably the majority of the summer. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there to the council to get your feelings about that. We had kind of told people, Sauk River Park is closed indefinitely. And then we kind of said, well, maybe till the end of July, because that's the last conversation we had, I believe, with the park board or with the council, saying, well, maybe the equipment's going to be moved and we can let people go in there in the end of July. Maybe part of it will be, but if we're able to get and move around and get the campground stuff in there, there's going to be excavation being done in that park. So just for really for protection of the city, I would not recommend that from the pavilion to the, as you move south, that anything in the park be allowed to be open, and especially not for driving until that project is done. That's just my opinion. Certainly the council can, obviously weigh in, or, what you guys want to do, we'll respect, but it's just, if you go out there now, it's, you don't want anybody out there. It's not safe.
Are there vehicles driving in there at night, Craig, that you're aware of?
They moved the barricades back at night, and our night officers are watching it to make sure there's nobody going in there. And it's been better since they added more barricades and closed things up at night. Part of that is though, moving to the south side for operations now. They don't have as much daily traffic. We're going to be back tomorrow, but put barricades back in place.
So
It's been better.
Construction folks have been a little better about the last person out of sliding barricades.
Right. Yeah.
So people can still use the walking path, the bridge, the little footbridge over there, but.
Oh, sure. I mean,
just-
people can use the trails and they can use the playground. And again,
Just keep them away from that south ball field and wrap it around to, I would agree with you.
So basically no vehicle traffic in there because of what's all in there as well as access to it.
Right.
And then the limitations we'll have on that south field in the pavilion. But yeah, we can walk into the park, absolutely.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Do you think it would be good to put yellow tape, you know, by that south ball field to the river? So they don't cross, you know, go towards the west more? Do you think that's at least putting a little bit, covering our butts?
That'd be a bad idea, tie it from the fence to a tree or something like that, or
Yeah,
whatever would create a visual barrier anyway.
at least we're trying. Yeah, it just makes it a little harder, potentially, for someone to walk off of something. Doesn't stop them most likely, but at least we can say we made the attempt.
You know, and just so you are aware, the north field, there, we said that, the school district, I think, was using that for 7th graders, or maybe 8th graders.
It's for I-94 league. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
the
like.
north side.
Yeah.
That's a little different, though. That's not, you know, that's not
But they're
kind
still
of.
gonna have to come in from the north side, park at the tennis court and.
Yeah, they'll have to park on the school side, and they're gonna have to walk, because they can't park in the park at all.
Well, maybe you wanna just reach out to that
Yep.
I-94 league and just let them know.
Yep.
Just say, hey, we don't want
I
vehicles.
think they've been in contact with you, right?
Actually, nobody's contacted me. They might have been working through the school, but I can talk to Stacy Austin Jacobson.
Okay.
And I can actually talk to,
It's
Mike.
Troy Toffert, who's
Or
usually.
Troy
I
Toffert,
can-
yep.
I have his phone number if you need it. so.
Yeah, or Mike. Mike, from the county is very involved in that too, so.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's regarding the park. So then, the other part of the park that's fun is we did put a grant into the Minnesota Outdoor Recreation Program that we submitted, and we are still under LCCMR's bill that is in both the House and the Senate right now, for funding. So between those two sources, if we're able to get funding, our hope is that, you know, we can pretty much get everything done with the campground. Next month, after the park board has had an opportunity to meet, we will be bringing back to the council kind of that final breakdown. The shower and the bathroom facility is the most significant cost as part of that. So what we're working with the county on is we have to get a permit to be able to have the licensing for the park. If we're not successful in getting funding, can we get a provisional license and continue to fundraise and have a window or a certain amount of time that we need in order to get that shower and bathroom facility completed?
Wasn't there some floodplain issue or something?
Yep, and
like
so
that?
that's why we have to use the existing facility that we have. We have to keep a wall up, and we have to kind of beef it up. And that's why it's costing a little bit more, because it is in a floodplain, yep. So, but also, you know, the nice part is Gary and his crew, Roger and his crew, from a labor standpoint, a lot of our costs can be covered. It's still gonna cost though, and we talked about that before, you know, it's still expensive to grade, even if you're not grading a lot, you still have to grade, you have to do what you need to do. So, the park board is very committed to this, and I think we just continue to, you know, keep sharpening the pencils and trying to find any sources that we can out there, so
And
that's
then,
where we're
you know,
at.
If we're upgrading, we're making some improvements or improved camping sites.
Oh, yes.
More of them, higher quality camping sites. And it would just, seems to me that you're not doing justice to the camping area if you don't have a nice hygiene area for those campers to
Yep.
use, in other words.
Yep.
I think it's well worth it to spend few bucks and beef that up, and, you know, so there's decent showers and decent facilities.
Yep.
And we really only have the option of doing what we're doing. We can't add it to somewhere outside the floodplain because it has to be within a certain amount of footage from the campsites, and everything is in the floodplain
Yep.
for that footage.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
And yeah, we are adding more sites. I think, you know, it's a very well-used park. People love coming here. People have asked us a lot, you know, when is it gonna get back open? I do think we will propose to the council for '23 to raise the fee schedule, because the fees that we charge right now probably, they're not what, you know, you pay other places. We're very low in terms of our fees right now,
Yeah.
so that is something we'll have to look
You
at.
got a nice location, and you got nice campsites, and you got nice facilities attached to the campsites, know that they will come.
Oh, yeah, and I think people are more than willing. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna blink an eye at paying a little bit more on the
It'd be
fee
nice
side.
when it's done.
Nope. And then, just so you know, with West Central Sanitation, we are working through some complaints, some other things. We're getting it figured out. There was some, so there were, and I haven't checked with them today, so I apologize for that. But the last time I checked with them, there were 94 residents that had not had their garbage picked up. And that was due to non-payment on their accounts. So there was some confusion. Oh, you know, we got the calls, my gosh, my garbage isn't picked up. Did they forget me? Like anything, just like with our utility bills, you know, it has to get paid in order for you to be able to have the service. So that's kind of where it's at. I think they're working it out. The other thing that I did want to mention is there, as far as the, I don't know if you call them leaf bins or what you refer to them as, your bins that you can put.
Yard waste.
Yard waste, thank you. I was trying to think of the name, thanks. You know, some people have said, well, you know, I need more than one. And I think West Central is very much, you know, willing to give folks two. After that, I do think that it is reasonable to expect that they will charge beyond that. However, we also talked, and I had a good conversation with West Central about maybe one of the things we look at is we look at a schedule of a spring and a fall pickup, so that people can, if they're raking their leaves in their yards and it exceeds what their yard waste bin is, that West Central will come and pick up the excess. The thing about the excess is they have to be in compostable paper bags. You can't, by law, you cannot put them in plastic bags. They will not be picked up because that's not legal to do. It all has to be compostable, et cetera. Well, I talked to Kramer Lumber and they carry these bags. And then I have not been able to talk to the hardware store about it, but if a couple of our local folks carry it, we could maybe just, you know, figure out the dates that we want to have this and then say, you know, the bags are available for, I don't know what Mark told me, they're like $3 for 10 of them or whatever. They're available at these certain locations. And then you can pick them up and then we schedule that for 2 times, so once in the spring and once in the fall. And I said that I would bring that to the council and just get your kind of feedback on that and see what you guys' thoughts are. I think that kind of, you know, really helps the folks that, you know, have more leaves than normal, and it helps them get picked up that way. That's what a lot of communities do.
The only thing I mean, I understand the concept of it, but the one thing that isn't really aligning is it's not the same as what we had before. So like Waste Management picked up yard waste every week.
No, they still would.
Any amount.
Oh.
So now we approved that quote and it seems to be different, you know, as we're moving forward.
So, everyone gets the 96 gallon yard waste bin, and that gets picked up starting in the season. So, starting April 1st through whenever, that will get picked up. So that is the same as what was before.
No, what happened is it was unlimited waste when Waste Management took over. We could have as many bins as we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's the way that the bid was written. I guess it wasn't written that way, and that's the way it was. So
If you had bagged leaves that you put around your house to allegedly insulate during the course of the winter, if you put them out there in the spring, they would actually stop, take a knife, slice the bags, dump the leaves into the truck. They'd leave your black
Bags.
heavy-duty bags, but Waste Management would do that in the spring.
They'd do it all summer long.
Yeah.
Our neighbors can't fit it all in,
You know,
and probably 3 of them.
I'm not putting this on West Central, but Waste Management was pretty good about that. Now, whether or not that's just the drivers were good enough to jump out and, you know, spend 5 minutes or whatever it took to do that, as opposed to just grabbing with the arm and dumping the leaves in the grass container. But they were good about that.
And like I said, you know, if two, you know, I understand two is, you know, fair. I mean, if more than that, I'm starting to understand that it should, but yeah, that's, maybe there was a misunderstanding when everything got written up for a proposal, but that's, you know, that's just the way it was, you know.
And so, you know, I did look, I do know what you're saying. Waste Management would not have bid unlimited either in a new proposal. I think there would have been a fee. We probably under the RFP, because we just said yard waste, so we put, you know, the way the RFP was written, it did not specify unlimited. It said pick your cart size. So whether it's the 32, 64, 96, give us a quote based on cart size, give us a quote based on recycling, give us a quote based on yard waste, bin. So, that's how it was written in the
Maybe we would have
RFP.
discontinued that practice if we'd have stayed with Waste Management.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
may have, yes.
Yeah, they may have. I can tell you that, other communities that utilize West Central that have yard waste, there is a charge, for the, in most cases, in some communities, it's a charge for yard waste bins no matter what. Like a significantly higher charge than what we're getting charged. In other communities, after that first bin, it's then a charge for the second or whatever the case may be. I think West Central is very much willing to work with us and saying, hey, yeah, people want 2 bins, they can get 2 bins, you know. But kind of just trying to figure out that's the solution. I mean,
Have they been getting asked for more than 2?
I don't know if they have, honestly.
Well, then, I don't know if I mean, do we really have to bring this up yet?
No.
I mean,
Yeah, no, it's,
I mean, I've talked to a couple people that have asked for an extra bin and they've gotten it. No
Yeah.
questions asked, they just got it. So, I mean, unless we're coming up with somebody saying, wow, I had 5 last time. I don't know. I mean, we're beating around the bush here.
yeah, no, I'm good with it. That's just.
I'm just saying, I think that, I want you guys to be aware that West Central will charge after the second yard waste
Yeah.
pump. Yep.
And not pick up any extra more than one.
I think before we figure out if they'll do, that we'd have to go buy paper bags and they're gonna have to get out of the truck and everything, maybe they would rather just do a dumpster out by the industrial park that you could haul your leaves to and shovel them in there quick. I don't know, if you have that much leaves in your yard, you probably have some way that you were hauling them before, cause I never drove by anybody's yard that had 5 or 6
I
of them
never did either.
barrels, so, I mean, I had 2 and
2, yeah, and I had 2, but
So-
yeah, I don't see.
I think it'd be fun.
That's enough.
Handle it case by case.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And then Tessa's already talked about, and we have it later on the agenda also, well, she's talked about LGA, and then later on the agenda, we're gonna be talking about the American Rescue Plan funds. And as I indicated, we are on LCCMR's proposal, so we'll see if we stay there. That's all I have for now,
All
thank
right,
you.
sounds good. All right, we're on the action items, hiring a part-time maintenance worker, and they have Isaac Schmiesen applied and was the one that they would like to hire. Can I get a motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Hire for a streets, parks, temporary seasonal worker. This would be the replacement for Bob Beckerman. His resignation is June 3rd, 2022. So there was, looking at hiring somebody, can get a motion to approve.
I'll make a
Hiring.
motion to approve Mr. Hennecamp's
Okay.
hire.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And just want to thank Bob Beckerman for all his hard work for the city. He did a wonderful job and definitely will be missed. The fire department purchase of turnout gear. Was there any questions or anything on this?
I'd make a motion to approve the Great Plains bid for the turnout gear.
Okay, there's a first. Can I
I'll
get a
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Mr.
motion.
Mayor, just a note, NFP, which is the National Fire protection standards that all fire departments are governed by, they find the lifespan of turnout gear to be 10 years, and the Melrose Fire Department's gear is at that, and maybe just a titch over right now, so they really don't have an option. They have to upgrade to newer equipment.
I believe it's 12 years. I think it's 12 years that the equipment is, right? So, it needs to be done.
So
All right.
is this all the gear?
The turnout gear,
Jacket, pants.
pants.
But this is, every person gets new gear
Yeah, when
this
they
year?
buy
or
it, they
whatever.
buy it
Okay.
straight across the board for everybody, and then 10 years he budgets for
Yep.
it.
No, I was just wondering,
Yeah.
I didn't know where that quote covered. Did it cover 5 or did it cover 30?
Yeah, I cover up the
All
third.
right.
All right.
That's for current members, that's why he's asking for 24 at this time. If somebody new comes on, they measure them to make sure the gear fits them
Right.
correctly, so.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. ARPA projected allocation.
Yeah, so as you may recall, the city received $399,535 from the Department of Revenue under the American Rescue Plan funds. At the February 17th meeting, we talked about the new final rule that allows cities to declare those as public sector revenue loss. So that was a direction of the council, and I did submit the required project and expenditure reports to the Department of Treasury for that. So with that, these funds have to be used for a service that's traditionally provided by a government. So that could be road and maintenance, infrastructure, public safety services, for a few examples. It cannot be used to pay down debt. It cannot be used to replenish our reserves. So while we did submit for the required reporting, we do want to make sure to think about how we want to designate that money so it's not just sitting in a reserve fund. So we meet the requirements of that. So any eligible costs have to be incurred between March 3rd of 2021 and December 31st of 2024. And the funds can be obligated by 2024, but they have to be spent by the end of 2026. So we have some time to spend them, but we need to look at what we want to designate those for. So those could be used for any potential infrastructure, housing initiatives, infrastructure for projects that we have, you know, for example, the bridge or campground. It could be used for those types of services. And then annually, until the project is complete, we'll have to just report on those to the Department of Treasury. So we just wanted to have some council discussion and give some consideration as to if you have areas that you would like us to look into, to designate it towards, or to continue monitoring.
Updates, costs, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
Discussion, council?
I don't know, I guess, city administrator Winter could probably look into where she feels the needs are greatest and where would be the best usage of those funds, and probably at that, could give us an update, which time we'll probably approve it.
Are we looking more towards infrastructure, like if housing comes in for the water mains, electrical, which I know more is utility side, so are we looking at the roads, sidewalks? Because I know we're pretty light with funds for stuff like that. And if we want to put in a housing development, we're going to have to, few parts in town, there's a long ways to go.
Is some of this able to, like, talking sidewalks and whatever, is that, some of that money able to do this trail from Daylight Court?
On the county road?
Well, like,
Yeah.
basically get it all the way so kids can walk from school to home.
That potentially could be a
I mean,
source of it, yeah.
that's a very small portion of this, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big portion for, I know, the park board to recommend to do it, so.
Well, actually though, if we were gonna do that whole thing, it was over 200,000, wasn't it?
The whole thing? Oh,
It was quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of, that is definitely, you know, a good thing there too.
Yeah, I mean, that out there is really growing. I mean, with young families, so
Yeah,
it's something that's been asked about, so.
yeah. I'm just wondering if, you know, if we have potential developments going in to get a start to bring the water mains electrical. Just a couple of those places, it's a lot. I mean, we're looking at, was it utility side, you know, $1.5 to $2.5 million?
$2 million on the one project, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And that's kind of lost because we can't really assess it. Well, part of it we can't assess back.
yeah. Yeah, just because of where it's at, we are gonna take the hit on the whole works.
So, yeah, I'm happy to bring forth, you know, and the other thing you can do, if let's say you dedicate it towards, I don't know, First Street as part of the RDB project, then clean, it's paying for that infrastructure, done deal, then we're able to, whatever cost savings we have there, then when you come to your budgeting side, you potentially could put that into, you know, towards MADIS funding, that type of thing. But I'm happy, between Tess and I, we're happy to come up with some numbers and what things cost and get back to you.
That way, the only reason why I mentioned it that way, you know, Joe's kind of looking in a direction, I'm looking in a direction, Justin's looking in a
Yeah.
direction. If we kind of know what the costs are for these different directions, it makes it a little easier to
Yep.
to try to figure out what the major priority is and where
Yep.
to
Absolutely.
put the funding.
Thank you, yeah. So, let's see here. So I think this would be more of a consensus for allowing staff to deliberate a little more
Yep.
on their feelings. So can we get a consensus on this? Because we really can't, we don't have no designated, so can we get a
Nope.
consensus to let staff?
I'm fine with
Okay, that would be the consensus, okay. All right, then we're on to old business, an action item to consider approval of the revised Inspectron contract. Was there any more questioning on this for you, any of you?
I'm guessing that between the city attorney, the city administrator, and the firm, they've hammered things out, it's been reviewed, and we're all comfortable with it.
I think that the main, you know, the contract itself, we had an opportunity to review last month. The main issue is that you guys have to be comfortable with the plan check fee. That's really where we're at. The other communities are at 50%. On the corridor, that's what he was talking about. So if we are gonna be consistent, that's what I would go back to in Spectron and recommend that we start with. Everything else remaining the same as part of our fee schedule. That's my recommendation to the council.
Yeah, he more or less said 50% is kind of the standard, correct?
For what he's willing to do for the communities that are in our 94 corridor, correct?
And I got the indication he wanted uniformity in that area.
Absolutely, yep. And keep in mind, again, you know, they're only taking 75 versus the 85. So Scott and I will have to look at that and kind of do something. But the one thing then, Patty, I believe if we, or Tessa maybe, either one, if we change the fee schedule, do we have to, it's not a public hearing notice, is it? Is it just a, no, it's just a action item? Or do we have to
Might have to
publish?
review it.
Fee schedule is ordinance to adopt each
Mhm.
year.
So-
So it would be an amendment.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
just to make sure, what is the plan fee?
Plan check fee is 50% of whatever the building permit fee is.
Okay.
So if your building permit fee is $1,000, your plan check fee is gonna be $500.
On top of the building permit.
Correct. Yep. But that's only for new residential construction. We're already at, I believe we're at 65% for commercial. They already pay that. All commercial already does that. And has. It was just something that was not it was omitted out of we never called out a plan check fee in our fee schedule. And we've always just they've only always just charged us $100, which doesn't come close to covering anywhere near what their costs are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you give me the direction to go back and we figure something else out. It's up to you guys.
Like they said, all the other communities are at that price. For now, I'm comfortable with it.
I can't speak to where the other communities are at as far as what they've adopted for their building permit fee schedules.
That's,
You know what I'm saying?
that's
I
why I
don't-
was wondering if we could spot check a couple other communities, see what their
So I know that
fee schedules are.
Bill's, St. Augusta and us are probably the same. I think Albany's quite a bit lower, because if you recall a few years ago, we're the same as what's, SOC is. If you'll recall, a couple of years ago, we did change the building permit fee schedule because we were quite a bit lower than, I think we were using some very old standard, and now we're up to 94, which is still quite old, but that's where we're at as far as the building permit fees.
So they're basing their plan check fee
On,
price off of our building permit. Fee.
I'm not saying that right.
Is that right? I would say we could lower our building permit fee so that their plan
Well,
check
that's
fee is
per
lower.
the, so our building permit fee is based on whatever the state building code is for whatever year we put it in place. So we went to 94, so that means you'd have to go back and change it to a previous, earlier.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not sack and whack, it's not the state surcharge, it's none of that. It's really just, what you would be paying.
So we don't get to set what we actually charge. I mean, besides we could change it to a different state building,
You can change it to a different
Year.
year, but the state,
but I mean, 94 is
yeah.
pretty far back there already.
It's a
so-
28-year-old standard, I mean,
Yeah.
probably
I
don't
don't
get any
know.
better than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so, all right,
Okay.
can I get a motion to approve the revision?
So,
Can I get a second?
Is it 65% or is it 75? You said we were at 85 and then you said that they went down to 75, right?
That's for the building permit fee.
But that's what we're consideration on.
No, we're considering the plan check fee, totally
Oh.
separate.
Okay.
Yep. So our plan check fee was 100, and now we're saying we're gonna actually.
The old company was 85% and they're at 75%.
For the building permit fee, so what they, like, if we collect $100,
Right.
the old company would take 85, they're taking 75. So there's a 10% savings there, and then the old company only charged a $100 plan check fee. Don't know how, or why, or how they could do that. This company is basically saying, we can't do that. If it takes, some of these are very complex projects, and it's gonna take a inspector
Yep.
much longer than that to do a plan check and do it thoroughly. They stamp it, there's a whole letter that gets written as part
The
of
only
it.
thing I was just asking because what you guys are talking about doesn't say plan check. We're on 7A, right?
Yeah, plan review,
So,
yeah.
I was just making sure that we're,
Yeah, I think originally we were proposing the 65, and that's what I'm saying. I would recommend that you guys go down to 50, because don't pay 65, pay 50, because
Okay.
that's what the other communities in the area are doing, and that's what I would say as you start, as far as negotiations with them.
and you said the plan check fee is for residential only? No.
For new residential
New residential.
construction.
Okay, what about commercial?
Commercials, they've always paid that fee, I guess.
65.
Because what I'm wondering is, because obviously, we had a few other concerns from other people, and myself actually had run into where you submit a plan and said you need to send that to a structural engineer.
Yep, and he did address that
International Building
tonight.
Code, He went over that. He
Yeah.
said It didn't sound like there was any way around that.
That isn't,
What, right, my question was, is, because what they've done, and a lot of inspectors will allow is if there is a structurally engineered building plan from the past, and you use that one, make a few alterations, they will allow that because it's been structurally engineered already.
But we
It's
asked
got the
that
stamp on it.
question.
Yeah, but the thing is it's changed now for, like a residential, commercial over agriculture. You have to have different, with insurance companies. He did explain all this, and I think you can go through it or talk to him. He did explain to us how this is, but they're more willing to work with us
Right.
to help get it moving, and then if they have to do it, they're not gonna hold the project up.
Right, and what my concern is that if they are now gonna charge a planned check fee, but every commercial structure, they say, no, you gotta send it on to the structural engineer. Well, now are we kind of double paying for the same work because now the structural engineer has to go over the plan also?
Yeah, there was something
Or-
about some of the, and he didn't really accuse lumberyards of trying to dodge something, but apparently some of the lumberyards were putting together these plans, probably not knowing exactly what the standard or the code was, if I understood it correctly. And so there's been a little rift between their particular company and some of the lumberyards that do draw plans for these agri buildings and commercial buildings and that sort of thing, the pole type buildings.
Right.
And we
That's
can,
what
yeah,
the-
we can come in.
And the company's putting them up because of whatever issues they run into, but,
It sounded like it was an insurance thing. He said something about if the snow keeps in the roof on an agri building, the insurance company will pay for the damage to the combine inside. But
yeah, I got the same,
Yeah.
whatever, same story, whatever, but, I think it boils down to, you know, obviously inspectors don't want to take any liability on for saying that it looks structurally good on paper. That's probably where this all comes from, because liability is big nowadays, and that's probably what they're after.
If you would like it, I'd be happy to run a scenario and do a comparison of, you know, a new residential home permit, so you can see what the cost difference would be.
John, I don't necessarily know if, are we ready to act on this, if we're gonna be making some modification from
You can table it.
75% to 50% or whatever that.
Yeah, you can table it, and we can make sure that the language is really clear and just bring it back to you, as long as it's okay with you guys
I
that
would
they
prefer
just
that.
are working, they're working right now.
Yeah.
I think we check with some other cities from Osaka to San Augusta and
Yep,
see.
I have talked to Bill, and
Because it's not like we're lacking services. We just haven't hammered out all the details of the services yet.
correct.
And then if you come up with some type of scenario.
Yep, absolutely,
200,000 or
I
something
can
like
do
you were
that,
just
no
saying,
problem.
What the fees are all gonna be, so everybody, so we all know what we're passing.
Yep, makes sense.
All right, then we'll just table this one. Do you want to rescind your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, motion was rescinded. Okay. No new business, informational items, utility commission meeting minutes, schools and conferences, first quarter ambulance report. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.